Coming up next, Sarah Selkovits and Thomas Brown of Cove Human Services. Welcome to our show, Picking Up the Pieces. My name is Kim Bissett, and today we're going to talk about the importance of peer specialists in the mental health field. First, we'd like to welcome Sarah Selkovits, and we'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself, Sarah.
I'm Director of Recovery for Cove Human Services. I am a RAP facilitator, Wellness Recovery Action Plan facilitator, and I also am a believer of that recovery is real and recovery can happen to all people. There's a home, a job, and a community for every person.
Fantastic, fantastic. That's very inspiring. We'd also like to welcome Thomas Brown. Tell us about yourself.
So I'm a peer specialist with Cove, and I work for a team called Safety Net Outreach, and we work with individuals with a diagnosis who live independently in the community. And I've been a musician most of my life, and now I'm pursuing a career, an educational goal of clinical psychology.
Fantastic, fantastic. What kind of musician are you?
I was a classical trumpet player.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Oh, cool. Very cool. We often talk about people's career journey, so it's fun to know other, interests and other things that people develop. That you can have a career and fulfilling interests, and one doesn't kind of negate the other. They're all part of who we are and how we go forward. So it's very important. We should mention that Sarah is a seasoned professional here on Picking Up the Pieces, so we're very glad to have you back.
Thank you.
We're very excited. Very fun. So let's talk about, you mentioned you're a certified peer specialist, Thomas. People may not know. Tell us about what that is.
Right. So a peer specialist is a person who has a history of lived experience and uses that history, that experience, to inform his or her work working with people living with mental illness.
Great. That's a great definition. Well, and people might wonder, why is it so important to have someone with that lived experience working with you?
It breaks down a lot of barriers in the helping relationship. It really helps having lived experience in relating to other people. For me, there was this what I experienced in my own recovery earlier was very different than what I experience now, but I was used to the medical model where I'm treated by an expert, kind of an authoritarian treater, and then I'm the treated, and it takes into account little of my own experience and my own tools that I have to heal myself. So it's as a peer specialist, we work in a more equal relationship.
Fantastic. So there's a more even exchange. It's much more strength-based.
Absolutely.
So that's not someone telling you you need to do A, B, C, and D, and you're, but wait, you didn't ask me. You don't know what I've achieved.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's a very important thing to really check in with the people.
Right.
And it's a very powerful piece of when you ask someone, well, what do you think would be helpful?
Yes.
How do you move forward?
It makes them the subject of their own experience rather than the object of a treater.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that really sets the stage for empowerment of that person.
Absolutely.
Especially young adults respond to that. I think everyone does when you ask their opinion, ask how they move forward, but especially young adults when they feel they're in the driver's seat. They know what's best for them.
Right.
Very important.
And a great habit to begin earlier in their lives. Because I think it gets much harder as people age and get used to thinking of themselves in specific ways.
Right, exactly. I've heard that if you take a baby elephant and you chain the baby elephant, that they won't actually move too much farther than beyond the chain. Even though they get bigger and bigger, they still believe that chain is so powerful as they go forward.
That is a really great analogy.
Thank you. But it's powerful to think about because they are so conditioned, if you will, when they're little. But then when they become so big and powerful, they're one of the most, kind of majestic animals in the world. And that they're just so conditioned that I can't fight back this chain. I'm resigned to it.
That's extraordinary. Wow.
That's a very
and
scary
absolutely true of
concept.
humans.
Right, and there's a lot of resonance in people. It resonates with a lot of people to say, wow, if you're always treated like you don't know what's right for you, how do how do you all of a sudden make those decisions?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of us experience that in our families
Yes.
that we come from, but then it's very common in society, so it just seems like the way the world is.
Yes.
Right.
But we offer a different perspective. I think it's very powerful. Can
Right.
make that shift for people into being their own drivers in the recovery.
Right, absolutely. And I think that ties in kind of to Sarah, your career. How did you get started at Bay Cove? Because you have a very kind of inspiring career path.
Yeah, I started 14 years ago as a employment specialist. So I kind of worked my way up through the company. And I started out with only disclosing to my supervisor.
Wow.
And nobody else knew that I had a lived experience. And I liked to keep, it was nice keeping it that way because I got my feet in wet, and I was able, and I also 14 years ago, the system has changed so much since
Yes.
then. People are a lot more open to people having lived experiences working with people.
Absolutely, that's such an important point to
Yeah.
say. It's a very different climate now. People are
Exactly.
embracing people with lived experience, where before you'd have to be like, oh yes, I do have lived experience.
And then they wouldn't want to, they wouldn't want to your coworkers wouldn't want to socialize with you because they felt like you were different from them.
Right, there wasn't that level of
Yeah,
understanding, that level of
exactly.
trust, and that there is such power in the experience. So let's talk about how your role has evolved. You started as employment specialist 14 years ago. How has your career development gone forward?
So basically, I started self-disclosing more and more about when I started doing trainings for people in different parts of the agency, and I would tell my recovery story to new hires.
Oh, wow.
And then, so that I got more comfortable doing that, and then I would find that some of my coworkers who are newly hired would take the training, so I had to tell them beforehand to prepare them for the fact that they'll be hearing my recovery story, and then I told the participants because I wanted to empower them and be more of a role model.
Yes.
And then when I became director of recovery, I had to be public for everyone.
Right.
Because that's part of the job description. You have to have lived experience. So I had to be out there and open. So now I'm on the web with my name, with director of recovery. So
And being an inspiration to so many people.
I hope so.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, why is it so important to be able to be out and talk about your lived experience and to be able to help others in this way?
Well, it's important because I want to help people realize that they can recover and that they can live normal lives. And just because they have a diagnosis, they don't have to be sick all their lives. And when I was first diagnosed, I would look for books about people with lived experience who had recovered, and they would all say, your family member will never recover, you'll never recover.
Wow.
And then I decided at the time, because I lived in a group home and I lived with people with different diagnoses, that I felt like they were being treated well, and I wanted to change the system.
Wow.
So I actually am really changing the system in my new role as
Absolutely.
director of recovery, and I'm able to help people realize that just because you have a diagnosis of mental illness doesn't mean that's the end.
Right.
Or that you actually have a life and a future. And
Right, it's not going to prevent
Yeah.
you from doing all the things you want to do. It's
Exactly.
a piece of who you are. I always say,
Right.
my mother has a pacemaker, but my mother's not a pacemaker.
Right, they always say it's like having diabetes or something. You just
Right.
have to manage it. And
Absolutely.
then when you manage it, you can go on and do all of the hopes and dreams that you really have for yourself, and it's possible.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's very important. So let's talk a little bit about, Thomas, how did you get started in this field?
So 2 stages.
Okay.
So I had decided to go back to school some years ago and to study psychology. And during that period, I wanted to have real life experience working with people with diagnoses. So I worked at a group home part-time for about 2 years. And toward the end of that 2-year period, I became just completely unable to function emotionally, psychological. I just had a complete collapse. And so I was unable to work for 2
Wow.
years during that period. So I worked on my recovery, got a lot of help, and slowly got better. Toward the end of that 2-year period, I started remembering how rewarding it was to work with people. And in the group home that I was working in, and I just had a really strong desire to do that. And I realized I had an entirely different dimension from which to work now. I was really caring, and for the people, I got great gratification from working with people. Before, it was a wonderful job, but now I saw that I could relate to them on a much more profound level, and therefore a much more effective level. So that was my thought. But I had no idea what a peer specialist was. So I called the director of the division for which I'd worked and asked her if she had any position for somebody who has a lived experience.
Wow.
And it turns out it was just at the time of the creation of the CBFS teams, just after that.
Community-based flexible sport.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and peer specialists have become part of the contract.
Oh, great.
So there was a position for me.
Great.
And so she hired me, and I've been learning how to be a peer specialist since.
Cool.
For the past 2 years.
My father would say when, preparation meets opportunity, that's what's called luck. We make our own luck. So preparing to make a difference. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And why do you think on their team, the peer specialist, why are they so important?
Well, they're important for the reasons I had mentioned, in that you can relate to the person suffering with a mental illness without always trying to figure them out, or perhaps even badgering them to perform the way that you think they should. But another huge and hugely important aspect of working as a peer specialist is that you become a bridge from the participants of the program and the other staff with whom you work, because you can explain. There's an explanation available when people don't understand a person's behavior. So a staff person might have a tendency to think that a person's being lazy or uncooperative, when in fact they're just having overwhelming anxiety, or perhaps they've been triggered in a way that's really debilitating to them. Wow. And so to be able to be there and provide that explanation just creates an entirely different way of working with the client, and for my team, a very profound way of working together.
Yeah, no, I love that, the way you described that, a bridge, and that you raise the level of understanding, because if you're outside looking in, you might not know all the internal things that are going on.
Absolutely.
But to really raise the level of awareness of what the person might be experiencing, and to help them learn to articulate and advocate for themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
That's fantastic. It's like a whole fabric that you're weaving together.
That's beautifully put. Very powerful fabric.
Very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. Now, you guys are such a resource about people in their recovery, and let's talk a little bit about, Sarah, what tools have you used, what strategies have been helpful in your own recovery?
Well, I became a wellness recovery action plan facilitator about 2 years ago, and I've done 6 classes. Wow. And I found, actually, by teaching RAP, after having done my own RAP, that I learned so much from the class, and I can be so honest and straightforward about myself, and it keeps me very honest and talking about my own experience, because you have to model everything, and you get the class to discuss the topic once you've disclosed. So it takes you through 5 stages of the disability process until you get a crisis plan put together, where you have your supporters step in and take over for you when you can no longer take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. So it's been really important to have that in place for myself, because I actually did get sick, and I wasn't required to go into the hospital, because I stopped it fast at the point, because I had my toolbox and my how to stop triggers, and how to, when things are breaking down, I had all my plans in place to catch it myself. Wow,
fantastic. So you realized it and were able to kind of intervene so much earlier, so that you were able to, sustain your recovery.
Exactly.
Fantastic, fantastic. So can you tell us a little bit about, one of the strategies is a wellness recovery toolbox?
Right. I'm going to share my toolbox. This is not everything in my toolbox because I collect tools.
Okay, cool.
But the first is this PetSmart bag, the bag that's in. I have a cat, and I pet my cat when I can't sleep. He curls up next to me and sleeps next to me all night. So if I have my toolbox is a lot of things about how I use sleep to take care of my wellness, because that's one of my major things I need to make sure I get at least 8 hours of sleep a night. So I eat a little bit of food. Well, Weight Watchers cookbooks illustrated in my apron. I cook a lot, and I have to eat healthy things, and I just eat a little bit because you're not supposed to eat right before you go to bed. But sometimes it's hard to go to sleep on an empty stomach.
Yes.
And then I have this this teacup, because tea is my comfort food. I love drinking a little bit of tea. And my mom got this in the Netherlands and to remind me that I need to take vacations, because it's like a huge thing in my life that I need to relax and get away from work and every once in a while and recharge my batteries. I have Wynton Marsalis and the Israeli tape CDs that I listen to when I can't sleep, and I play them, and I'm trying to collect all of the Marsalis Brothers CDs. I journal if I can't sleep and talk about like what I can do tomorrow, or do a to-do list, and if I can't get things from work out of my mind.
Right.
And then I have a poetry book of 20th century American poetry, and I read different parts of, because they're short and you can just absorb them easily, and just read a couple poems if I can't sleep, and then I'm more relaxed and can fall asleep. And the other thing I have that I didn't bring is a sleep alarm, so that I put my radio on at night and put the sleep thing on, so it'll go off in 60 minutes.
Oh, nice.
And so it helps me fall asleep listening to music or the NPR. The voice puts me to sleep too.
Oh, the National Public Radio voice.
And I can have it go off and it won't wake me up in the middle of the night.
Oh, that's key.
So it's really nice having that extra thing to be able to use.
Absolutely. Those are some wonderful strategies to share with people. Journaling, get things out of your head, help you increase your overall self-awareness. The tea and just helping calm people, relax. It's a wonderful, positive thing you can do for yourself. Reminding people to take breaks, eat well, cook for yourself. So something very nurturing when you cook for yourself.
Right. It's very very straightforward ideas that you can use that anywhere in your life that help you feel better about yourself. Obviously, medications are important, but they don't take care of all symptoms.
Yes.
So if you have, like when I have symptoms, I take my PRN. I don't know what it stands for, but it's the medicine you're prescribed to take if you need to. And so I do that, but I also have these other tools that help me relax and kind of distract me from having symptoms.
Right, it's a holistic approach that you can take control and you can be in charge of to help you feel better about your life and what you want to accomplish.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. No, the recovery, I've been a RAP facilitator as well on a team, and it's just... people resonate with it so much because it's concrete things that you can do, and you're in control of your recovery, and to help you move forward in a way that makes sense. It really, and the concrete kind ofness of the things really helps people.
Exactly.
It's fantastic. So, Thomas, can you tell us a little bit about what RAP has done for you in your recovery?
Sure.
From your perspective.
And I didn't know that you had been a facilitator, so you have an inside view of this. Well, I'm new at this. This is my 8th week of the training.
Oh, wow, okay.
And it has absolutely been revolutionary for me in my life. There were a number of things since I've been in recovery that I had just been naturally drawn to do for myself. But there were things that weren't really hadn't formalized in my mind that I need to do this to take care of myself, or that I might do this, this certain tendency I have when I'm going into crisis. So it's helped me to operationalize these things, and formally do them every day, and to use them as a backup if I'm going into a crisis or if I'm getting triggered. So just formalizing that whole process. And for instance, I know if I get really triggered, I need to be in my front parlor, sitting, listening to a specific piece of music over and over again for perhaps a few hours, and that calms my nervous system.
Wow.
Kind of brings an equilibrium back to me. But before rap, I didn't really think of that consciously, that I'm actually doing something healing. This is recovery based. Instead, I thought, oh, I'm just kind of being lazy, I'm not taking any action in my life. So I've just done a whole flip-flop in how I conceive these natural tendencies to care for myself.
Right, so it's kind of changed your perspective. Like someone might go and do yoga, someone might meditate, and listening to music is an absolutely fantastic way to take care of yourself and kind of take time out. And so often we're human doings, we're not human beings, and we forget to just be, we forget to just exist. And we need that. We need that time to kind of ramp up and take care of ourselves so we can be effective for other people in our lives. So it's really important. So that's a really a neat thing to think about, is it's the way you look at things that are so powerful, and rap helps you kind of create a plan in a very positive way to take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
And one thing I use is that I have to break the code of silence and tell someone I'm having symptoms, because when I get really sick, my voices tell me not to tell anyone that I'm having symptoms. And then, so I have to tell someone, and then it seems to die down and go away faster if I do that, instead of getting into a spiraling kind of symptom control or whatever.
Right, absolutely. It helps you kind of put the brakes on it and just say, okay, I'm reaching out for support. I need to just break the code of silence. I love how you describe that, and say, listen, this is what's happening with me. I need some support. And that's so hard to do for anyone who needs help. You're like, okay, I'm a new mom. Sometimes I have to reach out to people and say, I need support. And sometimes it's hard to do, but it's so important for our well-being to say, you know what, I can't do that right now, or it doesn't make sense for me and to do that right now. I need to focus on other things. But when you do that, you feel so much better, and you get the support you need to move forward in a much better way. That's fantastic to think about, is making, everyone needs supports. Oprah arguably has the more supports of anyone that we know, but no one says, oh, geez, she has someone who walks her dog and does her makeup, and a personal doctor and a personal fitness. No one begrudges Oprah. We all need supports, right?
Exactly.
President Obama has lots of supports, but no one says, oh, you need supports to achieve, to do great things. It's very important. So as we think about, as we're wrapping up, we want to think about kind of each a final statement to think about, and we'll start with you, Thomas. What advice would you give someone kind of starting out in their recovery?
Starting out, well, be incredibly patient, be incredibly gentle with oneself, and really, really warm. Whatever you can do to bring kindness to yourself, do it. And then along with that, to be extraordinarily courageous, which of course doesn't mean being without fear, but just finding your courage to take the action that you need to do to take care of yourself.
Wow, I love that, to be patient and courageous. What two nice things to hold. That's a wonderful message for people. Thank you. And Sarah, what would you say to someone in their recovery, either starting out or someone in the process of their recovery?
There's a job, a school, a community, a church, anything that people want to do or be, they can do it, and recovery is real.
Wow, fantastic, fantastic. That it is. The recovery happens for people, and you can have all the things that you want in your life, whether it's an intimate relationship, friends, family, strong connections, a job, a house, whatever you want, it's out there for you.
Exactly.
As long as you are willing to take it.
Right.
Get the supports that you need and move forward. And I think that's a wonderful message. So that's really important. Well, thank you very much, Sarah, for being on the show. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you.
You've given us lots of wonderful insights into your own recoveries, and we appreciate that window to help people move forward in their own recovery. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'd like to also say thank you to our viewers for tuning in once more to Picking Up the Pieces, where we dare to persevere and move forward and help individuals in their recovery move forward and achieve their dreams. We'd like you to look out for that person who might just be in need of that extra support, and it might be you to help them reach their full potential. We'd like to also say thank you to the Department of Mental Health, who is a wonderful sponsor of our show and helps us move forward and reach out to more and more people, bringing forth the message of recovery and resiliency and wellness. And I'd like to say have a wonderful afternoon. Stay cool out there on this wonderfully hot day. And this is Kim Bissett. Say thank you very much for tuning in to Picking Up the Pieces.